made holy by our presence, to celebrate what is deepest and most true, to honor the beauty of our own heart's longing, to cultivate wonder, imagination, and the courage to act, and to care for one another. Please light your chalice. Our common chalice is now lit.
Come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of disbelieving, ours is no yet again of despair. Come yet again, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan, whoever is leaving, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan, whoever is leaving, ours is no caravan, whoever is leaving, ours is no caravan of disbelieving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come.
Welcome to the Church of the Larger Fellowship. I'm Kevin Jago, one of your Learning Fellows. This week, we continue our theme of evil, a subject that can bring up so many emotions and memories for each of us. In particular, this week, Meg will be preaching about intimacy and evil. And we want people to know that the subjects of intimate partner and parent-child violence are discussed later in this worship service. Our exploration of the topic of evil this month is to recognize that our Unitarian Universalist faith has the ability to bolster us in good times and in hard times too. And that to be more fully human, we need to understand all of who we are and the ways we are with others. So as we sit at our keyboards or on mobile screens almost anywhere, we are all together. Those watching on Sunday and those who may be watching months from now. We are joined together for worship across both space and time. Through our connections, we are a community. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever the color of your skin or your country of origin, wherever and whenever on the planet you are at this very moment, whatever your gender, however you define family, and whatever the source of your faith, you are welcome here. Come, let us worship together.
Let us now pause for a moment of deepening together as a community, for we each carry within us joys that are too great for one heart to hold, sorrows that are too much for one heart to endure, local and world events which call upon us to bear witness. Let us begin by recalling the joys, whatever you may be celebrating or whatever evokes a feeling of happiness or peace for you or for others. Now let us recall our concerns and sorrows, whatever you or the world may be holding that is in need of our healing and caring thoughts. In the heart of love and in the spirit of prayer, we give thanks for this time together, where joys can be magnified and sorrows can be lessened. Blessed be.
I invite you into a time of awareness within yourself and connection beyond boundaries. We seek continued inspiration to transform the world we know to be more just and peaceful than the one that exists today. We remember that we too carry worries, sorrows, and the need for comfort and support. We remember the healing strength and creative power of community and covenant, of relationship. May we ask for what we need and find what sustains us, whether it be here online or in the places we find ourselves. As we hold the truth and pain of those who have harmed us and those we have harmed, we hold out hope for healing. May we create spaces of sanctuary for all who need them. Together, we recall the power and possibility found in times of transition and transformation, times that resemble spring, which is almost upon us. Let us remember and carry in our hearts the power of our liberal tradition, and always center our faith to love more and be in covenant with all of life. Finally, we remember to hold ourselves with loving kindness each and every day. May we each be filled with loving kindness. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be whole, and may we be part of making the world itself whole. May our minds create a vision of the world radical enough to be called holy. May our actions contain both the promise of hope and the commitment to justice in all its forms. May our hearts remember that love is a power that resists all forms of fear. By our thoughts, by our actions, by our hearts, may it be so.
In the fall of 2002, a sniper came to Washington, D.C. If you were around, you might remember that. For many people across the nation, it was news and it was, cable news. But for those of us who lived there, it was our lives. My child was in the first grade then, and the first killing took place halfway between our home and my child's school. And so every day as we drove to school, we passed a monument to the woman who had been waiting for a bus and killed her. The next killing took place miles away, but at a gas station where a good friend of mine always got her gas, a random customer getting gas. And so this pattern of random killing took over the city of Washington, D.C. and the surrounding suburbs, and all of the sports teams stopped. There were parks that were just completely empty. Kids were shuttled out of school under police escort into buses and cars. It was a hard couple of weeks. And during that time, we were told that the killers were probably white men in a white van. So we were told to look out for white men in a white van, which, a lot of white men drive white vans because they're working vans. And so every day you would see dozens and dozens of white vans. I was very fatalistic about it. I figured if we were going to get killed, we were going to get killed, and ended up getting a really good deal on a car because no one would go to the car lot. So, that it was a hard time. Eventually, during that time, the killer revealed who he was through a series of notes, so we knew his name. And a woman said, "That's my ex-husband, and he's doing all this to get back at me." At the time, I thought this was kind of a grandiose idea of hers. But it did turn out that he had been staking out her neighborhood quite a bit, and they never knew what he really was doing. But I have since learned how many mass shootings involve a person who is enraged at either an ex-wife or girlfriend who has left. So many of the men have been in the military. That's one characteristic they share. But another is that it's tied up with some story of domestic abuse, either with a parent or a partner or former partner, that they kill many, many people. And of course, we know that every day partners and children are killed. 4 children every day are killed by parents or authority figures. 70% of them are under the age of 3. And as we let that sink in, how could people entrusted with the most vulnerable times in someone else's life betray them so completely? We have to ask ourselves, Vaclav Havel says the fault line between good and evil runs through every human heart. And I think that's true. I also think it runs through every human relationship. So I've been thinking about intimacy and evil. So much of the time we talk about systemic evil and oppression, and that's all very important to talk about. But so is evil as it takes place in our most intimate relationships. I was recently in Harry Potter World in Florida, and it occurred to me while going on rides and taking the Hogwarts Express and otherwise thoroughly enjoying myself, that one of the great things about that series, all of the human beings in that are complicated. We see every form of cruelty we possibly could between family members and spouses, as well as between, the Death Eaters and Voldemort and the upstanding, people. But we also see a lot of people. We're not sure. They seemed like they were good, but now they seem bad. They seemed like they were bad, but now they seemed good. And there's a lot of complexity about the characters and who they are related to good and evil. And I think we recognize that because it's true. I think we know it first about ourselves. I wish I could say that I have never treated someone I love with disrespect or anger. I made a vow when I was a young kid. I had a dad who was angry and violent, and I made a vow to never, ever yell at my child if I had children. And as the lyrics go, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, come yet again, come, right? I wish I could say I never lost it, but I did. And the thing about losing it with someone that you love, I mean, really losing it, not just kind of being irritated that they left the lid off the peanut butter, but really losing it is, I'll speak for myself. There are times when I have not only wanted somebody to stop doing what they were doing that I didn't like or that hurt me, I have wanted them to stop existing. I've not only wanted them to stop saying what they were saying that I didn't want to hear, I've wanted them to not have that opinion. I've wanted them to, if they had to have that opinion, to not exist. They have felt life-threatening to me. And I mean, I'm thankful about the places I have not gone with my rage. I am very grateful. And I have deep compassion for people who have gone to physical violence. Sadly, I understand it because of my own impulse. Here's what I can say as I speak honestly and with acknowledgement of how broken we all are, or most of us. If you're watching this and saying, oh my God, that's not me and that's horrible, I've never yelled at my child, I salute you. But I've never met you, I'll tell you that. So here's the thing. First of all, compassion. To have compassion for yourself, yes, absolutely. Also to have compassion for the people that we hurt, right? And so to figure out how to make amends to them. Understanding that we can never fully amend the hurt that we do another, but we can do our best. One of the things that was most painful for me about my father is that he was quite cruel to all of us, especially my brother, and really seemed to die without ever regretting it, you know? And I thought, really? You get to just die and go on and that's that, you know? But I can express regret for the harm that I've done to people that I love. So that's one thing, is that we can really try to make amends, do the best that we can. There was a time when my kid was a teenager when if I would lose it and really just rage, I said, you know, that's soul damaging when I do that. And so we had a thing where I would repair the soles of my kids' shoes who gets, they get really nice shoes at thrift stores and sometimes they need to be resoled. So there was a time when that's what I was doing, was repairing soles on shoes for some soul repair for my anger. So that's one thing, is that we can have compassion and make amends. Another thing, though, I think is that we really need to get more help. For me, with my anger, I needed to recognize that actually the anger I felt as an adult was very tied to the helpless anger I felt as a kid. And I needed a witness for that. I needed a therapist to really talk through, and also to do some physical work of letting go of the trauma that came from that time, so that it wasn't, you know, going to hair trigger and come back up when something felt similar to me. And so I think we really do need to get help. And I'm really excited about some of the things that they're figuring out about that with, you know, with all kinds of therapies that are cognitive therapies, but also body therapies and all kinds of treatment now for stored up anger and trauma. There are people who are dealing with this, you know, beyond here, take this drug and you'll feel better, to really help you. And I encourage you to find somebody who can help you. I hope that this community also, by being a place of honesty and reality, is helpful. And I hope that you have friends who you can call when you say, oh my gosh, I suddenly don't think I should be alone with my kid because I'm so angry. Would you come over? You know, that can help a lot, just to have somebody come over and laugh with you, or change the baby's diaper, whatever you need to get other adults nearby. I think that isolation can breed really bad treatment of one another, and the less isolated we are, the better. You can also just say, if there aren't people nearby, there are many places online where you can just go say, help, I need help, and get a little perspective. It's tough. I just want to be real that, evil isn't just something that other bad people do. We are all complicit in all kinds of systems, not only of, systemic oppression, but also of real mistreatment of one another. And so in these times, I think finding ways to treat each other better is something that we can do and we can help each other do. As we think about evil, I always think about, and I've told this story before, that I got a call to ministry working with abused kids. And that what I saw is kids again and again would turn towards love if it was offered. Even kids who had suffered horrific abuse would still turn towards love until the abuse was too repetitive and they simply couldn't believe the love anymore. But I think offering each other love, offering each other the best that we can be, is one thing that we can do to align ourselves with our universalist values. Intimate relationships, I think, are the testing ground for who we really are, not our public selves, not our carefully constructed selves that we present in social media, but how we treat those closest to us. I think that's ultimately who we are and how we know the most. And so in your daily life, may you know love. May you create love. May you find help for the hard places. And may you always know that you are not alone.
Survivor of domestic violence. No one ever understands how hard it is to leave a domestic violence relationship unless they have been in one themselves.
I don't tell people that I'm a survivor of 2 domestic violence relationships because they always look at me like I'm still a victim.
I'm a victim of domestic violence. My family and friends don't know. They all think he's the perfect husband. I hate him to death.
The hardest part about dating after my marriage is telling them I am a survivor of domestic violence. No one wants to deal with that.
I finally got the guts to report the domestic violence from my ex-husband, who is the father of my children. I think it's made my anxiety worse.
I'm a survivor of domestic violence. I suffer from PTSD because of the abuse I suffered over 2 years.
I've lived with domestic violence my entire life. I can't even imagine what it would be like to have a regular family.
I'm a domestic violence survivor. Dealt with it for 7 long years. The memories, flashbacks, and nightmares haunt me every day, but I pray I will see the light again.
I shared my story of being a victim of domestic violence with a friend. He said to me, "How could someone stay with an abusive person? That's so stupid." I couldn't believe how insensitive he was.
I'm a survivor of domestic violence and I still live in fear.
I never thought I would be a victim of domestic violence. I've never imagined that I would have to get the police to rescue me from someone I love. How do I learn to live or love?
I survived domestic violence. I am still alive. I am safe. I am strong.
I am a survivor of domestic violence. It's been 8 years, but I now have my self-esteem and self-worth back. And I know I'm beautiful.
How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected.
And now we come to that time in our service when we extinguish the flames that we've lit for this special time set apart. But never do we extinguish the flame that burns eternal, the flame of love, the flame of our commitment to a just and caring world. If you carry that flame, please touch your heart and say to yourself, I carry the flame, and allow that flame to burn bright.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine.
you.